Hi, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Proud to live in the greatest country in the world. Unfiltered opinions, no PC discussion here. Agree, disagree, hate it, love it, it's all good. Sit back and enjoy some unfiltered commentary. We discuss politics, culture, interviews, and more. Your comments are always welcome. Please help the channel by hitting that subscribe button. Doesn't cost a thing. And as always, thanks for your support. Welcome back. I was watching Tim Poole's, one of his daily broadcasts. Great channel, by the way. Gosh, you know, I'm one of the reasons why I started my channel here because of Tim Poole. So I remember a few months ago, he got untypically pissed off and basically screamed, "Why am I the only one that's fighting this fight? I need others to join too." And so I was about 90% there, but Tim gave me the extra 10% to go start this. And so here we are. But he brought this article up from the Federalist. Jesse Kelly. I guess Jesse Kelly's a former congressional candidate, lives in Texas, I believe, former combat veteran. And he says it's time for the United States to divorce before things get dangerous. This idea of breaking up the country may seem a bit outlandish now, but you won't think so when real domestic unrest comes to your town. And then he reads the beginning of the Declaration of Independence. When the course of human events becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. And that's from the Declaration, of course. And this is from April of 2018. So I think actually the polarization on both sides, and this isn't it's somewhat a Democrat-Republican thing, but I think the majority of it is constitutionalist, federalist, and unconstitution. I'm going to be blunt. The progressives and the leftists want to wipe their ass with the Constitution and make their own or get rid of most of it. And good for them if they want to have their own country. Now, I want to say up front, if this ever happened to the greatest political and social experiment in the history of the world, and that's what the United States is. With all its faults and all of its bad marks in its history, there's a lot of good ones too. It's not fair to be known for only the rotten things you've done and not the wonderful things. But that's the way progressives are, and I digress. I would be heartbroken if this happened. I live in upstate New York. I'm 64. I mean, even if it happened, how much would it affect me? Would I probably move? Yeah, probably. I'm 2/3 of the way there now, even without the U.S. breaking up. And I'm thinking about moving in central Tennessee. I was in Crossville last year, and it's a great town. Great town. That whole area is great. Well, let's get on with the article here. Divorce is hard, but it's easier than cutting the brakes on your wife's car. I like this guy already. He's got a good sense of humor. It is long past time for amicable divorce of the United States of America. There is simply no common ground left anymore. We are now the couple screaming at each other all night, every night, as the kids hide in their room. We cannot come together. We do not have to live like this. The history of the world is nations breaking up and redrawing their borders. If you want to avoid this political divide turning into a deadly one, we should do likewise. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't think it will come to a shooting war. Maybe isolated spots. We'll see. Stop clinging to the past and acknowledge where we are as a country, but not where you want us to be. Not where things were when your grandpa was storming the beaches of Normandy. Where we truly are. Yeah, I mean, I think about the last 10 years here, being pounded by the local progressives and ruining my business and destroying my entire future. I left the Democrat Party in 2013 I was a local elected official, city councilman here in upstate New York. I was a Democrat from 2000 to 2007. I was a council member and a council president in 2006. I left the party in 2013, ran twice for city council, and now it's a plus 20 Dem district. So naturally, I lost twice. The first time was very close. And I've been targeted by the progressives. Unfortunately, they're about a half a block away from my store. Citizen Action of New York, if you want to look them up, and plot of the Southern Tier is basically their, I'll call it their muscle side of their progressive agenda. We are a nation hopelessly divided. Remember, this is 2018 in the spring. We're more divided now than we ever have been in our history. And before you start screaming about the Civil War, keep in mind that bloody conflict was fought over one major issue. I take a little exception with that, but history's written by the victors, so that's the way it goes. In those days, take 10 families from New York and 10 families from Alabama, put them all in a room, and you'll find they mostly have the same values and bad accents. This guy's got an interesting sense of humor. Now, fast forward today and see and do that same thing. Those families have virtually nothing in common. We as a nation have polarized and separated from each other. That's true. And I'll tell you the truth. The progressives and the leftists have always been like this. I blame the do-nothing, spineless Republicans, of which I am a member of their party, that watched and did nothing or tried to appease. They didn't know how to fight back, and they got us in this situation. But that's another episode for another time. Anyone who thinks this is a radical idea has an extremely narrow view of history. If you don't believe me, try to book a plane ticket to Czechoslovakia or look at a map of Europe from the year 1600, then look at one today. See any differences? Borders move, countries split, and change hands. They do this for a myriad of reasons. Ours would be a major cultural shift toward the left, and half the country refusing to go along with tyranny. That I do agree with. I've been championing this idea for a while, and it appears others are catching on. And remember, this is over 2 years old, 2.5 years old. Just last week, a group of lawmakers in South Carolina introduced a bill that would allow the states to secede if federal government starts seizing guns. This is long before the Biden-Trump cluster blank. Why would those lawmakers even be worried about such a thing? Because Democrats are saying it, and not just some hippie chick with armpit hair at a vegan rally. Pretty funny. When a former justice of the Supreme Court of the United States calls for repeal of the Second Amendment, we should take the left seriously. Yeah, very. The GOP has many problems, but the Democrat Party has turned it into something completely un-American. I agree. The United States was founded on two things: Judeo-Christian values and limited federal government. The entire platform of modern Democrats stands completely opposite both of those. And I will have to say, in all fairness, the old neocon Republicans that are now voting for billions more of money we don't have. And if you saw the new stimulus bill for the COVID thing, it's ridiculous where the money goes. It's pitiful. It should go to Americans. Since we're taking it from the American people, they should be getting it. Oh, maybe I'll just do another episode on that. But he is right. And by the way, those people that don't like organized religion or a different religion than Jewish or Christian, it's not what he said. Judeo-Christian values is not the same as worshiping those religions. So shut the F up. And limited federal government. What has caused government to go up in size dramatically over our history? Crises, wars. Every time there's a major crisis, the Civil War, the Great Depression, government has always expanded dramatically. World War I, World War II. Look at Woodrow Wilson, that piece of crap. What happened with him? And look at the FDR expansion. And look how big the government got under Lincoln. But it was wartime. It's different. It was a Civil War. Look, every time. 9/11. Expansion of government. Another cabinet post. Homeland Security. secret FISA courts, Patriot Act. Yeah, government always oversteps when there's a crisis. This is the party that booed the very mention of the word God at their 2016 convention. That's true. This is the party whose candidates openly joke about killing anyone who won't turn in his weapons. That's also true. And those of you who think that, well, you know what, John, the people on the right are just as bad. Yeah, they got some nut bars. There's no question. But the vast majority as a percent, if you took 100 people and wanted to know which side had the most nut bars, 97 of them are on the progressive side and 3 are on the right side. These senators joke on national TV about killing the U.S. president, and the hosts respond by clapping like a seal. Yeah, probably CNN. The 1960s counterculture, liberal protester who just wanted free weed and an end to the Vietnam War has been replaced by a man who hunts down Steve Scalise and tries to kill him at baseball practice. The left is not playing games. They are getting bolder and they are getting more violent. Yeah. I consider Antifa the left, even though they're anti-government, period. They're anarchists because the Democrats saw what they were doing for months and months and destroying things and did and said nothing. And by saying nothing, you automatically, in my mind, align yourself with them. They have no interest in rational compromises. They will never compromise. Like all authoritarian ideologies, they want you to bow down before them and be destroyed for daring to resist. Yeah. Look at my life. They destroyed my entire life. But if I had to do it again, I'd do the same thing. Some things are worth more than money, even though it was a bunch. If you believe in God and a limit of government, there are entities that now proclaim their hatred of you in full view of the public. Yeah. The Democrat Party, media, Hollywood, the public education system, and now even corporate America. The GOP may have the House, Senate, and presidency, but we have completely lost the culture war. Couldn't agree more. It does not have to be this way. There is a difficult but ultimately peaceful path that ends with everyone getting most of what they want. We divide the nation in two. We can and will draw the map and argue over it a million different ways for a million different reasons, but draw it we must. I've got my own map, and I suspect the final draft will look similar. Now, I clicked on where it says my own map, and that tweet is unavailable. So I did find it online. Here, I'll show it to you right now. Here is the map here that Jesse Kelly put out his Twitter feed. I did find it online. And that's the red that he drew. Now, remember, this is April 2018. Just for fun, I decided to draw a map of my own, a couple of sample maps, and used Mr. Kelly's map. I think these are two likely scenarios. Now, remember, this is just fantasy stuff, folks. I don't want this to happen. But it has to be cohesive, the land masses. And number one here, I have California, the whole West Coast here. It's a separate country. And then the North here, giving them D.C. I live right here where the point of the arrow is, right on the Pennsylvania border in the middle of New York and Pennsylvania in Binghamton. Everybody in western Pennsylvania, Ohio, all the farm country, all through here, are going to be devastated. North and South Dakota. I don't know. It would be tough. I remember, if you know anything about when India got their independence from Great Britain, there were two Muslim majorities on each side of the country. And when they just formed India, they wanted to form Pakistan on one side, and then there was a Muslim majority on the other side, and there was this huge, huge exodus of people. Hindus from there going to India, and Muslims going from India to Pakistan, and the other side, I think they call it Bangladesh. I don't remember what they called it at the time. And it was unbelievable social turmoil. The mass migration of people going back and forth. And the same thing would happen here. It would be a disaster. It would eventually level itself out. But I just thought I'd draw these maps just for fun. And you can see here, number 2, I put a little more cohesive here, running across again, giving D.C. to the, I'll call it the north, for lack of a better term. On Mr. Kelly's map, his line is here. He has Kentucky being almost drawn completely out of Virginia. I don't think the people in West Virginia and Western Virginia would like this at all in Kentucky. Now, where I'm thinking about moving is right here, where the point of the arrow is. So that's just for fun. Just something to think about. I mean, it's bad, but let's continue on with the article. Now just seeing both the maps, Mr. Kelly's and one that I fool around with. Let's continue with the article. People say both sides disagree on everything, but it's not entirely true. A mass shooting happens at a high school in Florida. Both sides do agree something should be done. People on the right think should increase school safety. People on the left think we should restrict the gun rights of every American citizen, and they'll try to destroy the career of anyone who disagrees. That's the thing. Do you ever hear about, we'll call a conservative, and they call it a right-wing, I hate that term, right-wing organization that disagreed with somebody, or they disagreed with a right-wing organization, did everything in their power to destroy their lives? You can count on one hand. But the progressives and leftists, destroying somebody that disagrees with them, there are tens of thousands of examples. To give you an idea how these people think. Illegal immigrants are pouring across the border. The right calls for increased border security. The left offers them sanctuary cities and protection from federal enforcement. All true. Every issue plays out the same way, and people on the right will only accept this kind of abuse for so long. Sooner or later, the left-wing rage mob will start coming for the careers and lives of any normal American who sees things differently. Well, they already started. I'm one of them. The idea of breaking up the country may be a bit outlandish now, but you won't think so once real domestic unrest comes to your town. Our political disagreements have become a powder keg, one that already would have blown if conservatives had liberals' emotional instability. I agree. Emotional instability. Good Lord. What a great term. Nobody's expected to cheer for this split. Neither do I. Cheering is not a normal reaction when couples get divorced. We cheer for old married people on their 50th wedding anniversary. But life isn't perfect. Life is hard. And that's the thing that progressives and leftists don't get. Life is very imperfect, and life is very, very hard. Yes, there are great moments in it, in the course of a life. But think about the realities. Think about St. Jude's Hospital. There's 2 3-year-olds dying of terminal cancer. How the hell does that happen? Life is hard. Life is hard. Someone coming home from their graduation from college and getting killed in a car accident. I remember my uncle. My uncle married my mother's sister, who was in a nursing home with dementia. And he was devoted to her and visited her every single day, even though she didn't know he was there. One day he was driving to visit her and was in a head-on collision with a semi-tractor trailer and killed him. So, life isn't fair. Life isn't perfect, and life is hard. I agree. We both now agree that living under the other side's value system is wholly unacceptable. The most peaceful solution we Americans hope for is to go our separate ways. So let us come together one last time and agree on one thing: irreconcilable differences. It explains how Jesse Kelly's the host of Jesse Kelly Show in Houston. He's a Marine Corps vet. Thank you for your service. And former congressional candidate in Arizona. He now resides in Houston, obviously, with his wife and 2 sons. Do I agree with Mr. Kelly that this is inevitable? He kind of hints that way. I don't think so. If I had to do a percentage, if I was in Vegas and I was taking bets, I would put it at 4-1 against, 1 chance out of 5 that this happens. This is going to be a fight. And the thing I fear more than anything else is not what Mr. Kelly suggested, even though it would be terribly heartbreaking. But we would get through it. People are very adaptable. Generation or so, we would smooth things out. Maybe even as the progressive leftist parts of the United States self-destruct, and we let them back in with the constitutional federalists, what I consider the United States, eventually, and they will fall apart. We will be back together again. What I'm concerned about is this, that the takeover of the progressives and the leftists, that they take the Constitution, they wipe their ass with it, like they're doing now, but they're going to do it for real, that they do win, and they do control. They control enough already. And they take our Constitution, and they just get a black magic marker and start wiping things out of it. We start losing free speech. And then if you call somebody something they don't like, you can actually go to jail or lose your house or everything you own because somebody took offense at what you said or you misgendered them. That they teach this propaganda in schools, which is already starting. And first, second, third grade and beyond. It's sickening. That's what I'm afraid of. Because Republicans have one problem. They lack a spine. They don't know how to fight back. And that's the one thing. And there's a lot of Republicans that don't like Donald Trump, but they voted for him anyway. We need to teach them how to fight back. Sometimes you got to roll around with the pigs. You're going to get dirty. And I'm afraid they're not up to the task because these people are relentless. They will not stop until they are defeated. So let's hope, Mr. Kelly, that things don't turn out like this. But I find this a little alarming that this was in April of 2018, 2.5 years ago. And I consider it 2 or 3 times worse than it was back then. Well, folks, there's something to ponder. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.